So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this special event from the CSE Mentor Program, Graduating into a Recession. We especially want to welcome our 2020 graduates. Congratulations to all of you and welcome to the CSE alumni community. As we get started, like I've been saying, please just put your name in the chat. Let us know whether you're a current student, what your graduation year was, maybe your major, just so we have an idea of who's on with us today. Make sure you switch that from all panelists to all panelists and attendees if you want everyone to be able to see, so you can chat with each other as well. I am Andrea Hansen. I am the Assistant Director of Events and Alumni Relations for the college, and I help run the CSE Mentor Program. The CSE Mentor Program pairs CSE students with industry professionals for a year-long mentorship program. Our mentors have a real wealth of experience and advice, and so we're so grateful for their commitment to our current students. Today's discussion will feature 3 alumni mentors who graduated during the Great Recession between 2008 and 2010 to share their stories and lessons learned and to answer your questions. Also joining us today is Chrissy Francis from the CSE Career Center. Chrissy will be sharing some resources available to alumni and students from the Career Center and will also be available to help answer questions. So a few housekeeping notes before we get started. If you would prefer to listen to today's webinar by phone instead of over your computer audio, you can call in using the instructions on the screen, and they were also in the confirmation email you received yesterday. Please enter any questions you have for today's panelists into the Q&A window, accessed at the bottom of your screen. Joelle Larson, our Director of Alumni Relations, will be monitoring the Q&A and chat to compile questions for the panelists for the second half of the program. We are recording today's webinar and we'll share the link to the video with all the registrants following the event. And there is also a live auto transcript on, and you can access that at the bottom of your screen if you want to hide it or show it or have it up all the time. All right, let's introduce our panelists and we will get started. All right, we've got Ben Brady, a 2008 chemical engineering graduate, currently working at 3M. Efstasios Chouliaris is a 2008 computer engineering graduate, working at Thomson Reuters. And Rebecca Haig is a 2010 biomedical engineering graduate, working at Medtronic. She also holds an MS in systems engineering from Iowa State University. And again, our special guest is Chrissy Francis from the CSE Career Center. All right, I think we're gonna, switch off that and switch to our gallery view so we can see our panelists. And hello and welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here today. I just want to remind our audience, we will have time for questions from everybody later on, so please feel free, add questions to the Q&A, add them to the chat. We will do some answering in the chat and Q&A as able, and then share some with our panelists at the end of the event. Feel free to comment on each other's questions if you have advice or share their thoughts or concerns, and you can also upvote questions, and that'll show us that something's really popular and we want to make sure to try to address it. Okay, panelists, I'm going to ask that you each introduce yourselves and briefly share your education and career path as well as your current position. Ben, we're going to start with you.
Great. Hello, everyone. Name's Ben Brady. Like Andrea mentioned, a chemical engineering graduate back when it was the Institute of Technology. So still a little bit new to seeing the CSE, but I work at 3M as a manufacturing technology engineer in our consumer business group within the construction home improvement market division, specifically with our Command products, Scotch Blue products, some of you might be familiar with. So mostly doing process development and new product scale up.
Great. All right, Efstasios.
Hello, so same as Ben, was at the U of M from 2004 to 08 when it was the Institute of Technology. Graduated with a CompE bachelor degree and took many a weird career path. Started off as assistant engineer at Lockheed Martin. Ended up running my own like tech consultation firm for about 6 years, and then I ended up at Thomson Reuters as a software engineer, now in security engineering.
All right, and Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Haig. I'm a 2010 grad with my bachelor's of biomedical engineering. I currently work in the medical device industry at Medtronic as a systems engineer. So I'm the technical leader on projects, helping to drive requirements definition, feature definition, and cross-functional team discussion throughout development.
Great. All right, so first question for our panelists. Looking back now, how has your career path been different than you were expecting in college? And we're going to start with Rebecca for that one.
Yeah, in college, I always wanted to or expected to work kind of upfront in new product development, designing new devices. But when I graduated in 2010, those opportunities were pretty rare for new grads. So I spent actually 2 years in continuation support of products that were already in the field. I followed that up with another 2 or so years as a quality engineer responsible for a couple things, leading verification activities and ensuring process compliance. And during that time, I explored, through informational interviews and the like, various product development roles to understand both kind of what interested me the most and where my skills and experience would be a good fit. So kind of through that exploration, I found systems engineering, and I completed my Master of Systems Engineering. And then once I completed that, I transitioned with my company at the time into kind of that upfront new product development role, like I had kind of always targeted kind of from the beginning.
All right, what about you, Estasios?
Sorry, there we go. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of difficulties with this because Zoom keeps bouncing me between my headset and my audio. So this will be fun for me.
Well, we can hear you now, so you're good.
All right. So looking back now, how has my career path been different than what I was experiencing in college? So in college, I was always told, what's the best way to describe it? Oh, you're going to have this job for about 20 or 30 years. It'll be the same company, and, you'll work your way around and this and that. I'm like, within like 1 month of getting a job at Lockheed Martin, the recession hit and everything changed. Like, it was just no more project work. It was just all maintenance mode. It was very, very different. So that's when I took matters into my own hands after working there for a couple of years, and kind of started my own tech consulting firm for a little bit. And after getting married and having a kid, it changed everything there because working 80 hours a week was not the same thing. And then I bounced into Thomson Reuters as a software engineer to do something a little different. So it's not really linear. It's very much all over the place, but got experience nonetheless.
Great. All right. And finally, Ben.
My experience similar to Rebecca and Estasios both. The one thing kind of like Rebecca said, you kind of imagine leading these big technical projects when you graduate, and you kind of get stuck with some of the more the maintenance projects, little small scale stuff, and it's not really till now in my career, 10, 12, 13 years later, that I'm really doing a lot of those things. The other big thing is I didn't envision that I was going to work at 3 different companies within the first 4 years of my career. Some of that was my choice, some of it wasn't. It was really, the first company I worked for is kind of the writing was on the wall. Things weren't going well, during the economy, the economic downturn for them. So I left there before I didn't have a choice to. And then the other place I worked for a year, and that basically. I had some workforce reductions there where I had to find somewhere else. So that kind of, pushed me on to my next job, which is the current one I have today. But yeah, I always envisioned that I'd be, find a company that I work for, for the remainder of my career, at least the lion's share of it right off the bat. But that's definitely not the case. You know, it definitely wasn't the case. It's really given you a big understanding of the mobility that you have today too, which is nice.
Great. Okay, so our next question leading off of that one is, what about graduating during the Great Recession, shaped you? How did it change you as an employee and candidate? Do you feel it made you a stronger candidate or more valuable employee? And really, what do you see current students and recent grads kind of learning in this time that's going to be able to support them in this uncertain market? And this one, we're going to start with Efstasios.
Okay, so with this one, this was a pretty heavy question. So one thing I learned through running my own business is it kind of helped me understand both sides of the coin, being someone who hired people, but also what to look for in a candidate and understanding how different resumes, you know, kind of need to be shaped up. That being said, I was very much customer centric and customer facing. So getting a lot of that skills of how to communicate with the customer directly and not be behind, you know, product managers or product owners and that sort of thing was really helpful, because it also helps grow your, you know, people facing skills, and your soft skills is what they call them, which are just as important as your hard skills. Now, hard skills, I learned a lot of different things. I learned networking, like, you know, network switches, that sort of thing. I learned how to set up, you know, point of sale systems, payment portals, that sort of thing. And, you know, it's just after, you know, 2 years of, you know, working at Lockheed Martin, that was a big change too, because it was learning how to deal with, you know, secure clearance-based work and not being able to talk about it very much. You know, it's really, how do you finagle that into your resume without divulging too much information? Because it's, you know, secret, right? So it's a lot of different things there.
All right. How about Rebecca?
Yeah, so I talked about my career progression in the last question, and I think that's certainly given me really valuable experience. If I had started right out of school in a new product development role, I wouldn't have had the exposure to how products fail, you know, what difficulties can occur if you're supporting a fielded product, how users can misunderstand and even maliciously misuse a product. You know, it's one thing to kind of be told that those things happen, but it's a whole other thing to have lived it. So I think that that experience has given me a really well-rounded perspective to bring to the table in my new product development role when I finally got there and got into that opportunity.
All right, Ben?
Yeah, the probably the biggest thing for me that I learned during my you know, kind of during that time during the Great Recession, kind of, and you know, my career during that period of time was really not to become complacent. It becomes very easy to, you know, especially when you go to the U of M. It's a really great school. The chemical engineering program is really, you know, well known and highly regarded. So a lot of employers come looking for you. During this period of time, it was not the case. Nobody was hiring. Nobody was looking for anybody. But you find that your networking skills become incredibly important. So what I found basically after being laid off from my second job was laid off from the second job I had was that you really had to go out there and find it on your own. So I've, you know, went as much as, you know, like going on LinkedIn and finding recruiters at companies that I wanted to work for, finding the positions and getting past their filters that they have on the online application systems, and go reaching out to real people, whether it's cold emailing, calling, sending resumes, going places where you might not necessarily think of going, like to different job fairs that may not be associated with what you do, but it's just getting your name out there, getting to know people, reaching out to people you worked with, went to school with, anything. It's kind of uncomfortable at first, but then you get used to it. But it's there's always people hiring. They just might not have application or job postings out there. So what I found, you know, in fact, the job I hold today was, or when I was first hired for 3M, was never posted. It was actually a job that they were looking for somebody eventually, but they thought that I might be a good fit for it when I finally talked to somebody and got in the right person's office. So that was it's it's really enlightening to me. So so up until now, I've always made sure that I'm keeping connections with people, not burning any bridges, making sure that I always have that network in case something ever has to go, goes the other direction, or I'm looking for something else. I always have people that I can reach out to. That's I think a really important, of utmost importance that a lot of people don't learn.
Great. Anybody want to add anything else to that question? Any ideas building off of Ben that you think are really valuable for current students or recent grads to be thinking about during this time in ways that they can really get themselves prepared for the current job market?
I mean, I would echo Ben's kind of statement about networking. It's so valuable. There's so many people that you've come into contact with throughout your college career who may be able to put you in touch with somebody, or may know something on the inside of a company that could help you. So it's really important not to forget about all of those contacts that you've made, your professors, your teaching assistants, anybody you've worked with in internships, mentors that you've had in the past. Those are all people that you can reach out to now.
Great. Okay.
I'm just going to expand on that, Andrew, if it's okay. So one thing that I also found was informational interviews. So I don't know how many people are kind of familiar with those, and I've found that people are really willing to talk about themselves. So they'll readily be okay with, you setting up an informational interview with them. And what that does is it just gets you to know somebody maybe in a company. It's not formal necessarily. So there's really nothing on, they're not really obligated to anything except talk about what they do and what their company is and what they, it's like I said, people can ramble on about themselves pretty easily. So they're always willing to do that, it seems like. But it also gets your name out there. They learn who you are, and if they have, anything ever comes up, they can reach out to you. So it's just a good way to meet people and learn more about different industries too.
Great. Okay, our next question is kind of again leading off of that one. What do you think is kind of the most important thing? And I want to say for both employees, if you currently have a job, and for job searchers to be doing right now, or to know right now, what kind of mindset should we be going into all of this with? What is something they can be doing? What is, something they should really just be keeping in mind right now?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is remember you're looking for your first job, not your forever job. I think with every opportunity, even if it's something that, okay, this is not where I wanted to be or hoped to land, with every opportunity still there are experiences and skills that you can develop that will serve you in the future when you do move on and find your next role. And the other thing that I would say is when you do find that job, there's part of you that should always be paying attention to what you like about that job and what you dislike about it, because both are really important in helping you, evaluate what it is that you're passionate about, where you want to land. I think so many people have this thought of this is, this view of this would be the perfect job for me. And the reality may be different when you get out into industry, and it may not be what you thought you wanted, may not actually fit with kind of what you like to do, or what you're passionate about or work really well in, or the culture might not be a good fit. So I think evaluating what do you do like about each role and what you don't like is important to help you kind of manage your career so that you can eventually find yourself in a role that plays to your strengths and challenges you in really good ways.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. And then next we're going to Ben.
Yeah, I think echo the comment on it's, don't be thinking that the first job is going to be your forever job necessarily. It's be open to what you're looking for, find something that fits what you need, but be open to what's available. One thing I think about a lot of is, especially for our company, at 3M, we're a large manufacturing company, and we have a lot of sites all over the country, all over the world, especially our manufacturing facilities. And some of them are, everybody wants to work in St. Paul, for the most part, and be in the more of the urban areas. But it's a good opportunity to take some of those jobs, and maybe, you're not tied down perhaps, to get those experiences out of the way and go and maybe some of the more remote jobs that, maybe I don't want to say they're less desirable, but maybe a little bit. They're still really, really great jobs, but they're it's a great opportunity to get out there before you have other things, perhaps tying you down. So that's things to look out and really gain those experiences, because that later in your career, those types of positions are really valuable, and people look at them and take that into consideration when they're looking for certain positions in career paths down the road. And down the road, it gets harder, when you have families or whatever, homes that you have to sell and things like that. When you're really mobile right now, it's a great opportunity. And the other thing, kind of just, talking about, kind of brought it up before, was these jobs aren't really permanent there's nothing really holding you to a lot of them. A lot of companies don't offer pensions anymore that tie you down. There's not a lot of, financial incentives to stick around a company. So if, for instance, you find a job and it doesn't work out for you, you gain the experience, but it's easy to pick up and move. So just something to take into consideration. Look for the experience as a little more than the actual job itself.
All right, Estasius, your thoughts?
Okay, so with this one, I had a mentee recently who was slated to have an internship at Best Buy this summer, but because of the whole coronavirus fiasco, their interview was canceled, or not interview, internship was canceled because, they stopped funding that. And so he was asking me for advice of what to do. And I said, well, now is the time to, take different, avenues, take that time to learn that, front-end framework that you were so interested in, or, figure out a different path that you might be interested in, data science, or if you're interested in machine learning and that sort of thing. I said, this is an opportunity for you to kind of, take a step back and say, what do I want to do? Also, it's a good opportunity to network too, get your feelers out there, reach out to recruiters. I actually got emailed by a recruiter to go to this event called HackerX. It's for developers, created by developers. And what it is, it's just a lightning round of interviews and different panels and whatnot. And it kind of gives you a good foray into what the development world looks like, but it also gives these people an opportunity to, potentially get a new career option.
Great, thanks. Is there anything else anyone wants to share before we kind of move on and move into the open Q&A portion? I'm gonna take that as a no because nobody's unmuting themselves. All right, thank you all for sharing all of that. I think that's some really great advice about not being too tied down into the dream job, thinking about the for now job, thinking about experiences and skills you're gaining in jobs instead of job titles necessarily, thinking about how you can take experiences now that maybe you won't be able to do in 10 years and how that can build up your resume. And networking is always going to be a really big, important part of all of this. All right, so before we move on, sorry, just one second. There we go. Before we move on to the next portion, the Q&A, I'm going to ask Chrissy to share some resources from the CSE Career Center for students and alumni. All right, so Chrissy, if you want to share your video.
All right.
And pull yourself up. Great.
Yeah. So thank you, panelists. That was really helpful information. And I feel like it reiterates a lot of the things that we encourage students and alumni to do as well. So I was glad to hear your advice. So knowing that the CSE Career Center, we help current students as well as recent alums. People are graduating in kind of an uncertain time right now, and that can be really challenging to navigate on your own. So we are here to help you. One of the big things that we do in the Career Center is career counseling. This is where you can have a meeting with a career counselor to talk about things that you're trying to navigate or explore. In general, during this time, I recommend kind of focusing on the things that you do have control over and then trying to let go of everything else. You don't have any control over the economy right now, but you can work on a few things to help you job search or kind of take your next step more confidently and appropriately. So within career counseling, we can help you do some career exploration. Maybe you've graduated or you're coming up with graduation and you're not totally sure what you want to do yet. That's okay. We can start talking with you about some of the things that you find interesting, what you value, next steps that might be appropriate for you. Going along with that could be some job search strategies. So maybe some of the things that you've currently done, like going to that career fair and getting an employer to reach out to you, aren't happening as frequently right now. We can talk about other ways to do some of that job searching, which includes networking, which a lot of you talked about today. We can help you learn how to use different systems like the Maroon and Gold Network or LinkedIn, or come up with some other strategies to network independently. We also do a lot of resume reviews. Right now we are doing virtual appointments, but you can also email us if you'd like a quick resume review. In addition, we can help with cover letters as well as LinkedIn profiles. All of those documents are really important and things that you definitely have control over that you can work on now to hopefully set yourself up for success. Hopefully you'll get an interview, and if that's the case, we can help you prepare for that as well. We can do mock interviews, we can do practice questions with you, record it, watch it back, help you feel pretty prepared and confident. And then after you get an offer, we can help you with salary negotiation as well, and figuring out if your offer is kind of appropriate for the type of position and company. And then lastly, we can also help you prepare for graduate school. And this might be something that you go work for a couple of years and then you want to come back and talk about graduate school planning. We have a lot of resources on our website, help you think through programs that might be appropriate, getting your application materials ready, what the application entails, just to help you feel more confident with that process. So if you're interested in doing career counseling, you can sign up for an appointment on our website. Our main page has a link to register for an appointment or sign up for an appointment. Gold Pass Powered by Handshake is another resource that all students and alumni have access to. This is the U of M's kind of main portal for job and internship searching. In addition to finding positions and applying directly through that site, you can also find events. Right now we're doing a lot of virtual events that you can attend. You can also find employers that you might want to work with. There's a directory there that you can search through to find different companies. And there's also options to network through Gold Pass as well. You can search other students or alums through the U of M, or maybe that have worked at a particular company you're interested in, and reach out to them. And then I think one of the last resources I'll point out right now is our website. So we have a lot of different career guides on our website, kind of broken down by topic area. So if you're looking for some additional information on job searching and networking, we have a guide that has tons of detailed information, sample scripts of what you could use when you reach out to someone to ask for an informational interview, types of questions you might want to ask. So take a look at our website. And then something that's a little bit unique during this time is we have a resource document for kind of career development during COVID-19. So that's a document that we're updating really frequently, and we're trying to gather information on what employers are doing, kind of keeping a pulse on things, which employers are still hiring, resources for virtual networking, virtual interviewing, now remote work. So take a look at that too if you're interested in some specific resources for COVID-19. So my contact information is on the screen. You can certainly reach out to me independently if you'd like. Otherwise, our main contact is through our website there.
All right, thank you, Chrissy. All right, I'm going to hand things over to Joelle, our Director of Alumni Relations now, and she's going to pose some of the questions you have been asking. So as a reminder, just keep putting stuff in the Q&A or the chat, and we've got a good amount of time left to answer your questions, and that's the focus for today. So, all right, I'll hand it over to Joelle.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I want to especially congratulate and welcome the class of 2020. We're so happy to welcome you to the alumni community. And I saw a lot of class of 2021 members on the call too. So we're looking forward to welcoming you to the alumni community as well. But while you're still students, don't forget you can be part of our mentor program again next year. We got a lot of great questions. I'm going to pick ones that I think will have, most of you will have something to say about first, and then if we have time, we can get to some of the more specific questions. One that I think will be of interest to a lot of folks, and I'm going to turn this one over to Ben first, since I know he had a lot of transitions early in his career, is how much should you sacrifice your career goals for an open position during a recession? So for example, if you get a job offer and it's not exactly what you were hoping for, should you take it just so that you have gainful employment, or should you hold out hope for something that fits your longer term career goals more?
That's kind of a tough one. It really depends on your financial situation at the time too. Ultimately, I mean, you're looking to build a resume. I mean, especially early on in the career, in your career, with very little experience, it's hard to really demand the type of positions you may want. So, and especially in high unemployment times, there's going to be a lot of people with more experience out there that might be willing to take jobs that are a little bit beneath them. During the Great Recession, this was really a huge one. You'd have people that, you know, would have 10, 15 years of experience applying for entry-level positions because that's all they could get. And then if you're a guy coming out of, or gal coming out of college, it's like, you don't have any experience, you can't compete with those people, and they're willing to take pay cuts for that. So, ultimately, you know, you want to find something that fits what you do, because otherwise you're not going to be very good at it. And then B, you're not going to enjoy it, which is going to kind of drive down your productivity as well. But find something that's close, can build your resume, gives you the experience that helps you get that next job, and look at it more as a stepping stone. So I wouldn't take a complete 180 on your career, but at least, if you find something that's in the ballpark and it might not be exactly what you want, but just think of it as a stepping stone, give it a year or two and see where you go.
Thanks, Ben. Rebecca or Stasios, do you have anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, the thing that I would say that jumped out to me when I saw this question was, you should be evaluating those opportunities that, yes, it may not be your ideal job, but do you see that there are any, skills that could be applicable to where you want to end up in the end? Does the company that, is offering this position have the type of position that you're interested in? Do they do that work? Maybe it's not available right now, but is it open? Because I think once you get into a company and you start doing some good work, there are a lot of companies that are very open to, helping people transition into different roles within the company. So having that foot in the door can be really helpful. To Ben's point, you're gaining experience that you didn't have before, and you're also helping to build your network. So, I think the last thing I'd say also is having goals, career goals is definitely not a bad thing, but you do have to keep in mind that they may evolve as you gain experience. And, this job that is tangentially related may have a lot more of interest to you than you expected. And on the other hand, if it doesn't, you've gained some valuable experience, made some good contacts. But, I wouldn't necessarily say, you should take something that's just completely at odds with where you want to be. But do you see applicable skills? Are there positions that you could transfer to in the future? I think those would be the questions I would be asking.
Thank you. Stasios?
Yep, so I was piggybacking off of what Rebecca said. So I wouldn't be married to a particular set of goals right out of the gate, because that, I don't want to be very blunt, but that can set you up for the failure, right? Because you're like, oh, I really want to find these goals, and so you're pigeonholing yourself into something you don't even know that you truly want. You think you may want it, but you may not, because you actually haven't worked in that, if that makes sense. So it's more so be flexible, try something new. Don't, think you have to do a certain thing you put in your mind, because I mean, you are your own worst enemy right now. It's more so try something new, try something different. You may find out you like it more than what you initially planned to do. So don't like immediately say, I need to do this. So like, for example, when I wanted to graduate out of college, I wanted to work on microelectronics and firmware programming. Nowhere in my resume is there anything about microelectronics programming and firmware. It is all a hobby now. I could do it something for enjoyment, but it's not something I could feasibly see myself doing in a career. If that makes sense. Like, it's more so like find a different outlet for that avenue if you feel like you still want to do it, or you don't have to fully give up that career goal. Keep it at the back of your back burner. If there's some opportunity that comes up, take it. Be the opportunist.
That actually dovetails very nicely into another question we received. So Stasios, we'll start with you on this one. Because we've been talking a lot about maybe finding a job that's not exactly what you want and then moving to a new opportunity if it becomes available, the question was, is there a minimum length of time at which it's okay to start looking for a new job? Does it look bad on your resume if a future employer sees that you've switched jobs often and after a short length of time?
Okay, for that one, it all depends on the employer. Some people love, a lot of consistency. Some people don't. Like I said, that one can be typically 1 year is the bare minimum, because most people will, sit in a position for about a year and then, switch to a new position. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop looking. If it's something that truly doesn't make you happy, continue to get their feelers out there, get ahead of the ball. Don't wait for a year to be up and then be like, oh, okay, now I have to start looking. You can be looking, 3 months into your current job if it's truly something you don't feel fits your, current goal, but just ride it out for that first year and, move on to something else. I mean, most people will ask, well, how can you bounce from here to here to here? Well, it's like, well, you always got to put a positive spin in an interview. That's the, what Chrissy would probably tell you is figure out a way to put a positive spin on something that interview is trying to goad you into thinking is negative. And also don't forget, my best tip is don't forget you're interviewing your interviewer and think about, can I legit see myself, playing video games with this person or having a beer, not just working with them. That was kind of my tangent on that. But back to the first point. Sorry, I get a little bit ahead of myself when I talk. It's, make sure you are, always getting your feelers out there. It's, get those informational interviews. It doesn't hurt. It's not a negative thing, and it's maybe be something better in the future.
Chrissy, I think this might be a good one for you to weigh in on as well. What types of advice do you give students about this particular issue of how long you should stay in a job that might not be exactly what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think the advice given was pretty spot on. I think it's more problematic if there's a pattern of that. So if an employer were to look at a candidate's resume and see that their past 5 jobs, they only stayed there 2 months or 3 months, I think that would be more problematic. It can happen where you get into a position and it's not at all what you thought it was going to be. And again, I agree the interview is a good place to kind of test that out if you can. But if you're there and you've done what you can and you're not getting to where you want to be and it really does not feel like a good fit, I don't think it's worth wasting a year of your life suffering through a position that you can't make anything good out of. I say that kind of extremely, like there will be good things that come from it. You'll gain other experiences or at least learn how to manage conflict, if nothing else. But I think generally a year is kind of a good rule of thumb, but there's always exceptions to that rule.
Thank you. I'm going to throw the next question to Rebecca to start. How do you deal with the stress around the uncertainty of a job market, like what we're in now, or like what you experienced when you graduated?
Well, I was gonna start by saying job searching is always, under all circumstances. It doesn't matter if it's now when there feels like there's fewer jobs available or in times of plenty. It's just always going to be stressful. And I think it's really, it's hard to do, but I would say don't define your worth by, you know, the number of responses or the number of interviews or how quickly you get an offer. You know, job searching can feel all consuming. It, you know, kind of haunts your every day, all day. And that's not, you know, healthy from a mental perspective. So, you know, making sure to explore other things that are of interest, whether it's hobbies or developing skills that you can add to a resume or volunteering, you know, kind of any way to get out. And obviously now it's maybe not the best time to get out and socialize, but, you know, some way to, you know, build some skills, do some networking. But job searching, regardless, is just always a stressful process because you kind of, there is a sense of, if I'm not getting responses back, there's something wrong with me or wrong with my experience, and that's not necessarily the case. And I think that's, you just have to keep that in mind as you do some job searching.
Ben, do you have anything you'd like to add? It sounds like you dealt with some pretty stressful situations early on in your career. How did you handle the stress of those situations?
I think, you know, kind of build on to Rebecca's statement is kind of your well-being, both physically and mentally. You kind of talked about the mental well-being, you know, kind of finding outlets for, you know, yourself, so you're not thinking about it all the time, you know, kind of, I was out of work for 10 months at one point, and the thing that really kept me going was keeping on a schedule. Not wake up in the morning and watching reruns on TV all day. It was keeping a schedule, and I actually took like the job searching as my full-time job. So I'd spend 8 hours a day looking for jobs and looking into, you know, job searching, networking, things like that. So it's start 8 o'clock in the morning, work till 4 or 5, you know, doing that, go to the library and whatnot. The other thing is the physical. So take care of yourself, eat well, go exercise, get outside, move. And when you don't do that, you kind of get down on yourself. You just, it helps to, like, you know, get outside in the sun and move and you know, take care of yourself. The more you do that, that helps reduce stress naturally a lot too. And it helps you kind of take your mind off what's consuming you all the time. You should be thinking about it, but you shouldn't be consumed by it.
Thanks, Ben. Chrissy, is there any particular resource at the U of M, mental health or otherwise, that you feel could help during this stressful time?
Yeah, I think the U of M does a really good job providing mental health resources. There is always Boynton. I think they're doing virtual appointments right now. University Counseling Services is another good one. I'm trying to remember the quick link. I think if you just search mental health at U of M, there's kind of a generic link that brings you to a page that outlines a lot of different mental health resources. I think some people are shying away from doing what they would typically do if we were in person, but I would encourage everyone to continue reaching out to those resources because most of them are doing virtual appointments. And it is super important to mental health during this time. I think job searching, as was mentioned, can be really stressful anyways, but then on top of COVID-19, what's going on that makes it really challenging. So yeah, get the support that you need. You can always start with career counseling too. If you're not sure which resource is the best stop for you, we can help kind of talk through what they are and what might be a good fit for you.
Thank you. All right, next question. I'll throw this one to Evstasios first. What was the most challenging part of transitioning out of college and into the workforce?
Dealing with people. That is probably the hardest thing. When you're in college, you are in an age group that is mostly around your age. When you go to the workforce, you are dealing with people all over the grid. You know, you've got people who are younger than you, older than you. They all have different personalities. I tell people, work a customer service job and you'll know how to deal with every single one of those people. Like, you'll know how to deal with the difficult one, the, you know, fun, you know, carefree one, and how to get them to, how to wrangle them into, you know, committing to something when you ask them to do it. It's, you know, learning how to deal with those different personality types. That was my biggest challenge, and dealing with conflict, because there are people who love conflict. You know, they just love to start fires for no reason.
Okay, Rebecca or Ben, anything you'd like to add?
I'll go. Let's say go off mute quick too. Yeah, I'll echo that as well. I mean, you do a lot of team projects in college. It kind of gives you that opportunity to work with different personalities, but at the same time, they're all kind of the same you're all technical people or whatever major you are, you know, so you're gonna be working with other chemies. You all kind of have a similar thought process, even though you're a little different. You're in the workforce and you're working with people that are in vastly different personalities and they think completely different. They have experience. So it's hard to, like, you know, manage that difference and the conflicts that might be associated with that. So just try to get more of those soft skills and learn how to deal with that. The other big thing is when you first start, you just, I at least personally, this was me, I didn't know what was going on. You know, you come in there and you're like, I'm lost. You know, they put you through training, whatever, but they really just kind of throw you to the fire. A lot of companies, they like set you down at your desk and you're like, all right, good luck. So it's kind of learning on the fly and whatnot. And you'd go into meetings and people would, you know, I would never speak up about anything because I might have some ideas just based on what I'm looking at, just through some critical thinking, but I never want to share them because I figured I wouldn't sound smart compared to a lot of the people there. Well, after working now for 15 years, it's the same situation. None of those people know any more than you do. So it's good to speak up when you're young. Honestly, you could have answered the same question when I was starting in that entry level position. It's you know, they're looking for your input. They don't know any better than you do, even then or now. So feel free to speak up and just you know, the more that you talk, the more that people are going to know. So don't feel afraid to ask stupid questions, you know, because everybody's you know, nobody knows any more than you do most of the time.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what both Ben and Estafio said. That you're always going to be working in a group. It's not like school where group projects are, you know, you have them, but you also have individual assignments. You know, you're always working with a group. The other thing, you know, that comes to mind, things tend to be really more freeform. You need to be more self-directed. So a good manager is not going to be telling you that this is your assignment and it's due on this day and here's how you need to go get it done, where you may have had more of that structure in school. And then the other thing that comes to mind is, okay, there's a lot more documentation than you expect. Like Ben said, you're going to kind of come in and you just like don't know what's going on. Being willing to ask questions, ask what feel to you to be stupid questions, and they may not turn out to actually be stupid questions. They may be, you know, you're coming from a different perspective and bringing that to the team, and that's really valuable. And the last thing I would say is, you know, you only really rarely use the highly technical learning that you did in school. I think the most valuable skill you learned in school was how to learn, and that's what you need to bring to the table when you transition into the workforce.
Statistics and finance too. That's the only thing you ever use. I said statistics and finance. If you can learn more about those while you're in college, do it, because that's literally all you'll ever use. You learn everything else on the job.
That takes us to the end of the time we had allotted for the Q&A. Thanks everyone so much for your questions. I know there were a couple that we didn't get to. If you didn't get your question answered and you'd like me to forward it along to our panelists, Andrea will share mine and her contact information in just a few moments. You can feel free to email your questions to us and we'd be happy to pass them along.
All right, thank you, Joelle. And thank you, of course, to our panelists and to Chrissy for being here today. That's wonderful, and I think we had some really great conversation there. All right, so before we kind of wrap up everything, I do want to share some resources that we have for CSE alumni and students. So the first, the CSE Mentor Program, is available to sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And alums, including our 2020 grads, we'd love to have you back as mentors. You can start mentoring immediately next year if you're interested. Registration for next year's program will open in the fall. And you can find out more at cse.umn.edu/mentor. Next, and I know Joelle already mentioned this in the chat, but we're going to say it here too, you should check out the UMAA's free Maroon and Gold Network, which is a virtual networking platform for U of M students and alumni. And it is a great place to network. It is full of people who have already raised their hand and said they want to help students and alumni. So definitely check that out. You can find out more at maroonandgoldnetwork.umnalumni.org. For other ways to get involved and stay connected with CSE while you're at home, you can visit our virtual engagement resources webpage at cse.umn.edu/virtual-engagement-opportunities. And if you're looking for information specific to the college's response to COVID-19, please visit cse.umn.edu/COVID-19. And I do just want to say again, and I said this in the chat, the Career Center link on the PowerPoint was missing the UMN. It is cse.umn.edu/career. The link that was listed there will take you to the College of St. Catherine's career website instead, which will probably not be as useful. We will share all of these resources in a follow-up email to all registrants, along with a link for the recording of today's event. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Joelle. I think there's one more slide, perfect. With our contact information, and like Joelle said, if you want your question that we weren't able to get to answered, or you have any other questions for the panelists, please email myself or Joelle and we will forward along questions. And I believe all of our panelists are on the Maroon and Gold Network as well, so you can reach out there. Thank you so much for attending today and have a great day.